Om Tare Tu Tare Tu Re Soha. Om Tare Tu Tare Tu Re Soha. Om Tare Tu Tare Tu Re Soha. Om Tare Tu Tare.
Well, welcome once again to all of you. Good to be with those of you physically here, those of you online. Last week we covered that topic of refuge and that process of refuge, as opposed to just blindly saying, yeah, I take refuge. What's this really mean to me? And where do I find safety? How does it make sense? So I thought it was a pretty thorough discussion, and I did want to highlight this one piece in the book around what this really means when we take a refuge. So I'll pop that up. Well, no, I will not pop that up. It's wrong pop-up. Okay, there you go. So here in the text, this is in the area under the benefits of taking refuge. This first point here. You become a Buddhist. This is not like joining a club, but becoming a person dedicated to bringing about a positive transformation of the mind. The Tibetan term for Buddhist literally means inner being. Also translated as an insider. An insider. Someone who looks inside for genuine happiness and peace. And so this process of taking refuge, becoming a Buddhist, it's really understanding that everything that I'm experiencing, my primary experience is within the mind, within the inner workings. I'm seeking to change myself. I don't need to change all of you, which is pretty good because you're not going to listen to me. That's a lot of work, trying to change others. And the opportunity is, to actually discover what it means when someone says it's an inside job. We hear that all the time. Happiness inside job. Nobody ever tells you what that means. Does that mean you just think happy thoughts? That hasn't proven too effective. But to understand that how I'm experiencing the world, I'm experiencing you presently here, those of you online, has a lot to do with me. Right? I'm experiencing you based on my conditioning, my karma, and this experience I'm having. And as I change, my experience of you changes. And I may start noticing that if I water different seeds, I may not have as many annoying people in my life. Or if I water other seeds, everybody's freaking annoying. And if everybody's annoying, who's really the one that's at fault here? And, what's the old saying? If everywhere you go you see a jerk, you might be looking in the wrong direction, And so this understanding it as I work on my inner qualities, my karma, my kleshas, my understanding, this all becomes very different. My experience of it becomes very different. And so it's an inside job. And so thinking of becoming a Buddhist, whether we stick that label on or not, the meaning is I'm committing to the inner work. The inner work. And I am getting out of the delusional thinking that you're the cause of my happiness or my pain. You're a trigger for it, for sure. But the seeds of it are here. And if I work on these seeds and these imprints, that's the real journey. So it's one in which the path is about transforming the mind. It's about the inner work. And the only difference between samsara and nirvana is me, how I'm perceiving things. So nirvana is not some different place. And so that's really the path. That's the saying, okay, well, I'm committing to that. That's the way I am engaging in this life that I currently have. So a few chats go back and forth. Are most people able to hear me okay? Okay, all right, good. Or maybe I should apologize. Depends. So then when we have a refuge, it's really kind of nice because I don't need to change all of you. I'm not going to stress out as much about what you do. I'm not going to stress out much about whether this arises or that arises. I'm going to know that whatever arises is an opportunity for me to grow, to learn. If it's a difficult thing, well then karma has ripened and it's gone. If it's a beautiful thing, karma has ripened and I'm enjoying it. And but the opportunity is always for me to engage with what is arising. And so there's a real benefit there, right? I'm not going to suffer nearly as much. And that goes right into the rest of the sort of list there of benefits. So I just wanted to touch base on that. A lot of people, we do get hung up on our labels and refuge ceremonies. Some people can take a refuge ceremony, get a nice name, here's your name, you take your vows, you have this blessing, and go out and not maintain any vows or any commitments and, get caught up in worldly concern. Does that make you a Buddhist? I'm pretty sure no. Or someone could be someone who is really working on these qualities, engaging in virtue, avoiding non-virtue, seeking on understanding more accurately their experience. Well, you might be much more of a Buddhist. And I remember working with a group of people, and it was a treatment facility. And one of the people really kind of thought they were Buddhist. They're pretty, got all the stuff, on the desk and all that in the room. But very, very, want to teach about Buddhism. And it was interesting because I had a conversation with him once because people had asked me to have a word with him because he was a very angry individual. And sat down, we had dinner, had a nice talk, and I said, some people had expressed, you seem to carry a lot of anger. And he said, no, they're all wrong.
Did you get angry?
He's pissed off, a little bit. And said that they're all wrong. They don't understand. Now, I practice loving kindness. That's what I do, I'm like, so, like my head was like, so everybody there's wrong. And you're practicing loving kindness. They're misunderstanding you. Okay. And I thought, okay, that's it. Yeah, that kind of went up to a 3-hour thing. It got pretty dicey for a while. But the point being, I was looking at, someone asked me about, so-and-so's, wants to follow a path or learn more about Buddhism, was in this environment. And I thought about, probably the most Buddhist person in this whole environment is so-and-so, who does not practice Buddhism. But he is the biggest heart, the kindest caring being, the one who, is just loving, just loving and kind and embodied and, he's probably the most Buddhist person there. I don't think he's read a Buddhist book in his life. And so, when we think about refuge and, whether we stick with a label or not, or become a Buddhist, or, bottom line is, am I an insider or not? And are these practices helping me soften my heart, be kind, engage in virtue? Does it lead to a greater understanding of my experience or not? And so that's going to be, a much more, I think, valuable measure. Which is not to say you shouldn't, if you have an opportunity with a good teacher to take refuge, get a name, take vows. Those are, good opportunities. But not something to rush into thinking it will fix you. Let me go do this. And there's a great Lama, I'm going to take refuge there. But rather, having the opportunity to know that this is something that's meaningful. You've been working on it. You've created the conditions. And if there's an opportunity with the right teacher, take some vows. There's 5 main ones. And some teachers let you take, we've got it really easy. Westerners, real easy. It's like, one aspect. When I was first learning, it was like 22. But okay, you break it down to 5. And there's these 5 main ones. And now those 5, if you're going to take refuge, well, you can take whichever of the 5 you want. But the point is, they don't want you to take a vow you're not going to keep, So that makes sense, right? That makes sense. But, people are going to break them anyway, for the record. Because one of them's not lying, okay? Good luck. How's your income tax? How's your how's your job resume? There's lots of little ways that we may stretch the truth here and there. And so it's, no killing, no stealing, no lying, no sexual misconduct, and then no intoxicants. And so a lot of people in the West, they get, okay, I won't kill another human being. It's a problem. Okay. Stealing, okay, I'm pretty good about that, except office supplies, because they don't count. And income tax, it's just numbers. So, okay, killing, sort of stealing, okay, maybe I can work with that. Lying, okay, we're doomed a little bit. Okay, sexual misconduct, okay, I could probably do that. I've gotten much better in that area. Okay, good. You don't want me to drink anymore? Where's my glass of wine? And so a lot of people get stuck on. It's funny, that tends to be the one that people get more stuck on. And the idea of no intoxicants is to have a clear mind. That's all. Damage of things are not very clear. It's hard to maintain mindfulness and clarity. So, if one were to formally take refuge, generally those would be the 5, and then the guidance is that you would do your best to uphold them. And karmically, and that's where theoretically we'll get today, is to karma. There's something about taking a vow about not killing versus just not killing. Okay, so if I'm randomly not killing people, I didn't just go out and get mad, kill people. All the time I'm not killing people. When I have a vow to not kill people, well, it's really not killing anything. All day long I am actively not killing. All day long I'm aware of not killing. I'm aware of the opposite of that vow, which is protect life. So I'm thinking about life, I had, for example, a little fly that was on in my windowsill on my little blanket, and I was going to put something. There's a fly, and he's just laying there. And I'm like, okay, I'll put that right. I'm aware of a fly. I'm actively not killing. I'm protecting life. And it turns out he was dead, but I discovered that today. So that's why I wasn't very finally. But you have that kind of an awareness. You may notice ants and not step on them. You may, and so you're creating a healthy, positive karma, actively not killing all the time, versus only when an opportunity shows up to not kill. You're just actively not. So there's a real incredible sort of karmic merit in taking vows in that way, is that you're actively not doing those things. And you're engaging in the opposite. So instead of killing, you are protecting life, becoming aware of life more, trying to be helpful, be kind.
That includes eating meat and things like that.
Yeah, we'd say that goes to meat and those types of things, and then everybody has the big debate around that too. So, and then some of the monks that I lived with, yeah. Well, you didn't kill it, okay. It wasn't killed for you, right? They didn't know you're coming. They didn't kill it for you, and it was offered. There's three things, right? You didn't kill it. You didn't tell someone to kill it for you. And then, somebody didn't sort of go out in the back, kill the goat, and then make the meal for you, right? So another than that, it's offered. And then, there's discussion around those things as far as do we create the causes for it by buying it at the market or not, right? Create the cause for killing. And then there's some people whose physical constitution need a little bit of meat, right? And then it's already been killed. So in these areas, it's really important to find a path that is suitable for you. And Jitsuma Tenzin Palma, she's pretty hardcore about it. I don't eat my friends. All sentient beings are friends, so I'm not gonna eat my friend. And Chato Rinpoche was like that, very, very hardcore. So we can take it from, so instead of killing, I'm protecting life. Instead of stealing, I'm not just being honest, but I'm working on authenticity, right? Not trying to show you a different side of me. Killing, stealing, right? I'm have that honesty, not lying, sexual misconduct, a lot of damage there, a lot of damage can be done. And then intoxicants, right? So those vows then are imprinted, and then if we're mindful of them, we're actively not doing those things. And there's good karma, good merit, it's ripening. We're much more conscious of that. So that would be a baseline, taking refuge, and then that's also foundational for then maybe bodhisattva vows. All right, let's go ahead. Any questions or thoughts on that before we move on to karma? I only see about 6 of you online, so if you want to say something, you can just unmute or stick a hand up. All right, we're good then. Let's get to karma. This body and life are changing like a water bubble. Remember how quickly they perish and death comes. After death, just like a shadow follows the body, the results of negative and positive karma follow. When I have found definite conviction in this, please bless me always to be conscientious in abandoning even the slightest collection of shortcomings and in accomplishing all virtuous deeds. That's from Lama Tsongkhapa. And so here, in the big picture, we always bring it from a full Buddhist context all the way down to I'm a human being who wants to live a good life, and I'm not sure if there's an next one, right? So I might be a human being, want to live a good life, want to make good use of this, not sure if there's something beyond that. So from that view all the way to a Buddhist view, which says, well, this is not your first, not your last. And we're creating our next one now. We're creating our future now. And that there's a store consciousness that goes from life to life to life. And in that store consciousness are the imprints, the karmic imprints and kleshas of everything we've done. And as conditions ripen, they bubble up. And then I see you as someone I like or someone I don't like or things like this. I may like strawberries, or I may be allergic to them. Or I may like them and be allergic to them, which is like a double whammy, right? And so understanding this is then from a Buddhist perspective that everything we think, say, and do is lands in this store consciousness and the imprints, and they ripen as the conditions, come into play with us. Wind up being seeing myself as human in this form, and as soon as I come in this world, you're going to notice some babies like, split peas, and some babies don't, and some things don't. You're going to start to notice there's tendencies, there's imprints, and karma is going to ripen on an individual level in a very, clear way of things I like and things I don't like, and sort of neutral. So some people are going to notice I kind of like that person. Like even kids, right? Little ones, they'll look at somebody else walks the room, or dogs sometimes. Some dogs, this person, that person's good. We have these imprints, and they show up, and this food I like, this food I don't like, and so forth. And some people are very musical right off the bat. Some of them not so musical. Some people are good dancers, some people are enthusiastic dancers. Yeah. Go either way. And so when we start to then come back to being Buddhist, we're understanding that my imprints and my conditioning are contributing to my experience of all this. And if I change those imprints and conditioning, I change my whole experience of the person or the food or the thing I'm doing or whatever's happening. And certain imprints bring about a pleasurable result, and certain ones bring an unpleasant. And many are just sort of neutralish, And so with that view then, we kind of notice, and I don't know if I want to get to it, but just the general theme here is it's not judgmental. It's not, you're a bad person, you've done this, so you'll get suffering. It's much more, we're all confused. We're all trying to be happy, and we're kind of finding out what doesn't work and what does, And so I'm doing this harmful activity, but I was trying to be happy, and, when my confusion, I thought that might be helpful. And I find out, no. And so it's more cause and effect and result in this messiness of life and in our confusion. And so wholesome or virtuous is defined by whether it gives a pleasant result or not, that's all. Some gives a pleasant result, virtuous action. Something has an unpleasant result, non-virtuous. So, but it's not judgmental in the sense that's a bad person. We're all just kind of confused, and we engage in these things, and we're coming in from a Buddhist perspective with many lifetimes of imprints that we get to work through. From someone who's just in this life, you're going to find the same principles, right? We call them adverse childhood experiences, right? That lead to trauma, lead to acting out, lead to difficult behaviors, or loving, caring, whether go with attachment theory, whether I was loved or not loved, how open I am to someone or not. If I'm raised in the South, I might like grits, and if I'm raised in Southern California, kind of like, where's the avocado dude? And you're just gonna kind of notice that your conditioning is going to have an impact on how you see things and what tastes good and what you feel good about. And you really won't have an explanation why your brother's good at music and you're not. Karma kind of explains it, but genetics won't. So, but whatever, if we just say it's a genetic thing, my brother's better at it. But we will note that if I practice music, I'll get better at it. The cause for getting better at being a musician is practice. Right? So we can start seeing cause and effect, and we're going to start seeing that if I'm in a difficult environment, I'm going to have some conditioning around that, and I'm going to have opportunities for anger and harmful things, I'm not going to feel good about who I am, and it'll play out as well. And in whether we go back to Aristotle or wisdom traditions, you're still going to find that as a human being, I'm going to have much more genuine happiness, well-being, and resiliency by engaging in virtue. Modern Western psychology, Mr. Rogers, all the way back, Aristotle, and prior to that. It's just the way it is. So that's what I find really meaningful here, is that if I don't know about future life or not, I can actually see these dynamics in this lifetime play out the same way. With the longer view, that you may sense that my consciousness is not just coming from this organ, but that it was there, and conditions ripen for this body. This body will come and go, and consciousness will still be there. Then we're going to really be thoughtful about what I'm doing now is creating my next life. Or in this lifetime, what I'm doing now is creating my future. Either way we look at it. Same dynamics. So let us take a peek on the 4 fundamental rules of karma. And then, so some of these will be much more Buddhist then. We now have a precious human life, but it will someday end, and our mind will travel to its next rebirth. Naturally, we wish to be born in a favorable situation rather than an unfavorable one. And taking refuge will facilitate that, along with, of course, ethical behavior. However, since it's mainly our karma or action that determines the realm and the circumstances of our next life, it's important to understand karma and do our best to live according to it. Otherwise, even if we attain another human rebirth, our life might be short or plagued with problems. Like rebirth, karma is another Buddhist topic people sometimes have trouble accepting. Remember, the Buddha said, we should investigate things for ourselves and not blindly believe them. When talking about karma, Lama Yeshe would say that we can see evidence of it in our daily life. We sometimes wake up in a bad mood, unhappy with ourselves, our life, job, partner, and so on. What kind of experiences will we have that day with such a mental state? Mostly bad ones. On the other hand, if we start the day feeling cheerful and loving, wanting to be kind and helpful to others as much as we can, we're more likely to have positive experiences, depending on the attitude we bring into the day. This illustrates a basic principle of karma. Whether we are happy or suffer is mainly up to us. We are the creators of our experiences. In this chapter, you'll find 4 meditations on the topic of karma, its general characteristics, specific details, and results, as well as a way to purify negative karma. I always find that one very important. And so we'll unpack just these sort of basic guiding principles of karma. And I laugh at the end because I was, where they used to have the film festival in Utah, famous film festival, Sundance. Was, I know it's going to be, where it was in
Utah,
I'm trying to think of the town. Park City, thank you. Thank you. So, Park City, Utah. And so I was a monk, we're traveling with the monks, we do teachings. And Geshes give the teachings. So he's giving the teachings on, that'll lead to karma. He's doing the 4 thoughts, he got into karma. I had to step out of the room at some calls to set up for some things I deal with. And I come back into the room, and like everybody is just like frozen, petrified. And he's giving this talk on karma. Basically, they're all going to hell and have multiple lives. They're going to be terrible. And I'm looking around. You know, because they get into some really graphic, kind of scary to death stuff, like if you kill this being, then you're going to have this result, and all this stuff. And he's very traditional. And so I come back and I'm like, man, is it cold in here? Is that just you? I'm like, everybody's like, and I'm going, oh, he's going hardcore in this whole karma thing. So, so at the end, I'm, he goes, any questions? And because the people they're hunting stuff, he said, like, if you killed an animal, like, and I go, yeah, I have a question. Let's say you incurred some negative karma. Is there something you can do about it? Oh yeah. And then he goes on, how do you purify and how do you cleanse? So when I read that line there, that popped into my mind, like, we can purify karma, which is good. And there are some teachings that will say, if you create this karma, this one, you really can't say that. Actually, karma's potentials, right? There's lots of potentials. And there's layers of karma, right? We have our own personal karma. But now we have a group karma. And we have the karma of Carbondale, we have the karma of the United States, we have all this karma. And all this karma is playing out in multiple levels. And, if I have a karma for potentially this to happen, in a car, but I don't even have a car. Well, that's not going to happen because I don't have a car. And, things. So situations need to pop up where a karmic seed can pop up. If I have a karma to be irritated by a certain type of person, but that person doesn't show up, I don't get irritated. That person shows up, I'm feeling pretty irritated. I think it's them. So, it's not fixed in that way. But these general characteristics are going to be unpacked. But if you think of them more as potentials, right? That those seeds are within us, but the soil's not right, the kitchen, right, that seed's not going to pop up. Some will be there for many lifetimes, some ripen quickly. It's all, potential, because we're clashing in everybody else's karma and environments and the karma, so very complicated. The only place I think it's simple is just if I find a delicious experience with Brussels sprouts. I'm pretty sure I did something good, like that makes sense. Okay, it's very tangible. Somebody else doesn't like Brussels sprouts. I do, okay. And I may find that as I engage in virtue, I'm not irritated as much. I don't, so as I change, there's a lot less irritating people. There's a lot less of that, so that my experience of others or my experience of my environment gets better. And all of you didn't change. Would change. My experience of you does. And so I kind of understand it on that level, as opposed to you did this, then this will happen. It's not really so much like that. We need all the other people involved to have that happen too, If you get in a car wreck, like, think about how many things had to happen for a car wreck. Who built the car? Who built the roads? Who raised those people who hit you in the car? And what was their family like and their genetic? And who was, tapping the rubber out of the rubber tree for the tires of that car? And, there's got a lot going on just for a car wreck. It's not just your karma. It's just all of this unfolding. And who was, created, decided to put a stop sign or not put a stop sign. There's just so much going on for any one thing that happens to us, so it's not like I did this thing, I broke my leg. So let's say I break my leg and I've got some pretty good karma, or your elbow, for example. I may experience less suffering than someone else who had the same injury. Okay, so that would be more of your karma experience, right? Some people, I can't use my elbow, or it was the same. It was devastating. I've ruined my the rest of my vacation. Other people, it's what I have to work with, and it's not as big a deal. And some people don't like Brussels sprouts. I don't know why.
You're saying that's karma, not just your perspective.
Right. How you're experiencing is the karma. Are you experiencing it in this in less suffering, in a more contentful way, so you're not having as much pain, right, is karma. How you deal with it, you can have a choice, right? I can be in intense pain and potentially have the choice to accept it or not accept it. That's karma. But what's happening and how you experience is your previous karma. It's ripening, right? So the degree of unpleasantness that you're experiencing is from previous karma. What you do about the unpleasant experience is future karma. So I'm responding to everything is creating my future. And if you have the attitude that this injury just purified a bunch of karma, then it's like, cool. Like, okay, that's gone now. But if I get frustrated and angry that it happened, now I'm creating a whole different, yeah. So understand that basic level, and then we'll get into the actual sort of principles of this. I'm giving commentary before I read their principles. So 4 general characteristics of karma, the Buddhist teachings on karma, are complex. Okay, I did explain that. Containing many details regarding the types of karma, their virtues and non-virtues, the various results of these, and so on. Before diving into those, it's helpful to start by looking at general characteristics of karma to understand better what it is and how it works. We'll likely note that there are a variety of terms found in different books for the 2 main types of karma, virtuous and non-virtuous, positive and negative, skillful and unskillful, wholesome and unwholesome, constructive and destructive. They're just trying to make it a little more palatable. Right? I like wholesome and unwholesome. Some of these are used in this book. Traditional Sanskrit and Tibetan texts sometimes use white and black, but given the racialized connotations of these terms, they are best avoided. You may be comfortable with some of these ones. I like wholesome and unwholesome. Skillful and unskillful is pretty good. I like that too. Skillful is not so skillful. My friend said instead of unskillful, he likes not yet skillful. I thought, man, how much you buttering this thing up? I'm like, that was unskillful. No, not yet skillful. He's a lot nicer than I am. So the first principle is karma is definite. Okay, so once it's created, it's happening. Karma is a Sanskrit term for action. It refers to actions we do with our body, speech, and mind. It is sometimes called the law of cause and effect because our actions are the causes of effects that we will experience in the future. However, it's a natural law like gravity and not fabricated by anyone, including the Buddha. He merely discovered the workings of karma while in deep meditation. So you don't have to believe in gravity for this cup to drop to the floor, right? I don't need to believe it's just going to happen. Cause and effect pretty much going to happen. And, we'll get into this a little bit, but I like this one Buddhist monk, it's like some people make karma as somebody has cause and effect. And he said, well, he's German. And he said, the cause for me speaking English is I learned English. And the result is I can speak English. I studied English, right? Cause and effect, right? So it's not always super mystical. It's, I do something, there's a result, right? I do something, there's a result. So the first general characteristic of karma, that karma is definite, means there is a definite correlation between the actions we do and the experiences we will have later. Non-virtuous actions bring suffering, not happiness, and virtuous actions bring happiness, not suffering. This is like what we observe in nature. Cauliflower seeds bring cauliflower, not tomatoes. And tomato seeds bring tomatoes, not cauliflower. But now they're kind of breeding them together, though, right? Aren't they? I'm not sure how it's going to hold up. So, you get the idea, right? Fine. So, how do we know if an action is non-virtuous or virtuous, negative or positive? One way is according to the motivation. Negative actions are motivated by delusions such as anger, attachment, and jealousy, and ignorance. It's interesting, they threw jealousy in there. Anger, attachment, and ignorance are the three root poisons. They tossed jealousy in there, which is part of it. While positive actions are those motivated by beneficial attitudes such as compassion, love, non-attachment, wisdom. Another way to distinguish non-virtuous and virtuous actions is by way of their results. Buddhist scriptures define non-virtuous as that which brings suffering, and virtue as that which brings happiness. Most of us lack the ability to foresee future results of our actions. So the Buddha, who had this ability, explained 10 non-virtuous actions that cause the greatest amount of suffering. And we've talked about those at great length: killing, stealing, unwise and unkind, sexual behavior, lying, divisive speech, harsh speech, idle talk, covetousness, ill will, and wrong views. Those would be the 10 non-virtuous or unwholesome actions. Top 10 list. He also taught a corresponding list of 10 virtuous actions that bring the greatest happiness. These involve consciously refraining from the 10 non-virtuous actions, so we're actively not doing those. Knowing that they lead to misery and engaging in their opposites, protecting life and property, speaking honestly and kindly, and so on. And so let's just posit that. So the idea is that whatever we do, kind of think of it as a tape recorder. It's all being recorded. Remember in second grade, third grade, this is going on your permanent record. They used to threaten me when I was in school. It's going on your permanent record, you know, it'll still be there in high school and all that. Well, karma is kind of your there's nothing really permanent, but you know, it's recorded, right? So everything I'm doing, things I'm doing is, you know, conditioning me. And so on one level, that could be pretty scary because I've had some crazy thoughts. But on another level, when they put it in a piece, though, with karma, there's the action, the result, but the motivation is the most important. So why am I doing it? Why am I doing this? And then there's the action, then whether it actually completed, and then how you felt afterwards. So these aspects. If I wanted to hurt someone, but I was unable to, it's not as bad as I wanted to hurt someone and I was able to, didn't complete the act. If I didn't want to hurt someone and I hurt them, very different, right? Wanting to and doing it, not wanting to and doing it, very different. So if we really want to understand what's going to make something virtuous or not virtuous, we've got these list of activities. But really it's about the motivation. It's the motivation. I can be doing something kind, but I want the glory for it. I want somebody to notice I'm doing something kind. Oh, that's not such a good motivation. Versus just want to do something kind. And so if we start here, when we think about what's going to ripen in our hearts and minds, what's going to create the results of a life that we find meaningful and beneficial, it's got a lot to do with our motivation. And so can I start to understand that wholesome activities of body, speech, and mind, being a person I feel good about, doing ethical things, is more beneficial than not. And so you start working with that. You go, okay, well, some people deserve for me to yell at them. Yeah, but do you deserve to have to yell at them? Because who's going to pay the price? And this is where I get angry. You did me wrong. And I yell at you, right? And then I feel good for a little bit. Doesn't seem so bad. And then I tell my friends about it. You know, yeah, you told them, you know, and I get validation. I feel really good about it. What's going to happen in the future when I'm in a situation anywhere similar like that? I have validated feeling angry and frustrated and yelling. I'm conditioning myself that it's okay to do this. Who's suffering? I am. And I'm getting validation for getting angry and yelling at people. And guess what I'm going to do more of? It's not fun to be angry and yell at people, generally. You might have a temporary pleasure around it. So what's really happening, sometimes when we think we're doing something, you know, and getting that validation, what we're doing is conditioning ourselves to be angry more often, to be on guard more often, to worry about being taken advantage of more often. You know, I'm suffering. As opposed to somebody did me wrong, okay, they're confused, they're human, they did this action, how do we make it right? And if they can't make it right, how can I hold them accountable? If I can't hold them accountable, how do I just move on? But it doesn't mean I don't try to hold them accountable. It doesn't mean I don't give them the opportunity to do the right thing. It means I don't have to be angry in the whole process. Why get angry about it? Things been done, someone out of their confusion, thinking that would bring them some happiness, you know, rip me off or whatever they did. If I get angry, I'm the one suffering. But if I see damage that they do to themselves in those conditions, and I just hold them accountable, get my property back, or you know, hold them accountable in court, or whatever I need to do. But there's no need to be angry about it. And I can actually hope that that person, you know, learns a lesson, gets better, right? And I can actually act out of compassion. And or anger and ill will, wanting them to suffer. And I suffer. And now I'm creating a pattern of suffering. And so sometimes things that we do, we're not recognizing, you know, the pain I'm causing myself. It's just, I think I got to the end of that, right? Good. Yeah, because then they're going to bring to mind several negative actions you've done. Reflect that, although at the time they may not have seemed harmful, they'll bring problems later if you do not purify them. If you can accept this, decide to learn and practice purification methods and try your best to avoid repeating those actions in the future. You can also commit yourself to engage in positive action as much as possible, understanding that they are the cause of the happiness and good experiences that you wish for. And that's, I guess, where if I were to understand that everything that's happening to me is an experience to help me grow, to understand myself, to liberate myself from suffering, then, you know, like, why would I get offended that you talk to me a certain way or that? And that's where I usually tell a story about at the monastery when a monk goes to his teacher and tells him, and these other monks are doing this stuff wrong, and he cheated me and this and that, and complaining. And then the teacher's sitting there going, let me get this straight. I want to make sure I understand this. You're angry at the cause for your enlightenment. Is that right? And then you stop complaining. Because these conditions are the cause for your enlightenment. They're showing up so you can purify things, you can grow, you can understand yourself, you can work with your emotions, you can see the experience. No, none of this, we're not going to get very enlightened. If everyone's nice to you all the time, how are you going to grow? Not very helpful. But man, those emotions that pop up, there's some good work there. So our cause for our enlightenment, all other beings, right? And so that's a really helpful view for me. You know, when I have these experiences, I kind of see it as if I'm finding it difficult, then I'm seeing karma has ripened and it's gone. Got that off the plate. You know. If it's joyful, enjoy it, because it's not going to last. You know. So suck it up now, and you know, and what's really important is how I respond is creating my future. So I deserve for myself to not act out of anger. I might feel angry, that's fine. Acting out of anger, not so healthy for anyone. And so that becomes the opportunity that I know that what is happening, as our dear friend Mike, who I saw was online here, would say, it's not happening to you, it's happening for you. I go, oh, okay, that's kind of cool. Cause for your enlightenment. Doesn't mean I don't feel angry, it just means I'm going to let that come and go, and I'm going to try to respond with a better motivation than wanting someone to hurt. Okay, so I'm going to pause there. It looks like Nicole has a hand up. We'll do some little Q&A and we'll wrap this up.
Thank you. Can you talk a little bit more about it's okay to experience anger but not to act out on it? Because I keep thinking about body, speech, and mind, and then when I have a unwholesome thought, I don't think it's okay to have an unwholesome thought.
It's totally okay to have an unwholesome thought. You didn't think it, did you? It rose. It popped up. So just if you understand it, anger is going to pop up. Unwholesome thoughts will pop up. You're not thinking them. You didn't sit there and go, I'm going to have an unwholesome thought. What's a really good unwholesome thought? Let me get into it. You know, the mind, you know, things percolate, and so they arise. Those thoughts at that point are neutral. What I do with the unwholesome thought matters. Okay, do I get in the car with it and go for a little ride? Or do I notice that's an unwholesome thought? Wow, I'm freaking nuts right now. Or that's a real scary thought. I mean, I've had some things, Bob, I was just like, wow, you're pretty self-centered here. So when it's popping up, at that point, it's neutral. It's ethically neutral. What I do with it matters. So when anger is arising, for example, well, that's the resultant karma from previous. That's resultant, that's all. Unwholesome thoughts, things like that, those are old things popping up. So that's fine. What we tend to do, and I think where you're coming from, is we'll judge ourselves for having an unwholesome thought instead of judging ourselves for acknowledging an unwholesome thought, which is wholesome. Like, whoa. And, oh, okay. So, and a lot of people think they shouldn't get angry. Anger is going to rise, and you're not a bad person because, yeah, as a matter of fact, it's happening. What do I do with the anger? So don't get angry at getting angry. And don't get judgmental about, man, I felt I was so much further on the path that I shouldn't get angry. You know, those are all self-centered, again, unwholesome activities, unhelpful. Noticing my anger, I'm like, wow, this is not the time to give my opinion. Yeah, I would like to stay employed, and you know, or whatever it is, keep the relationship or friendship or whatever. And so that's this thing is I think we have a tendency of evaluating and judging ourselves by the feelings that arise or the thoughts that arise, and we don't even notice we're not the one who thought the thoughts. You know, they just popped up. We didn't choose the feeling; it arose. What matters is how we respond. So how we respond is what matters. And I think we should pat ourselves on the back for noticing unwholesome thoughts, noticing that I was really trying to not do that thing. I tried to resist, I wasn't able to. That's wholesome. I'm trying to stop. Yeah, I screwed up. I said it before I was thinking. I noticed it and I acknowledged it. It's good. It's good. Again, what's our motivation? Our motivation was not to have an unwholesome thought or to act out in a particular way. Anybody else? Jojo. Go ahead and unmute.
It's still, I'm thinking it's still a non-virtue though, and you probably can't escape the pain or the suffering. Say if it's anger arising, you still may go through some suffering from that.
Yeah, absolutely. And as a matter of fact,
Practice now.
yeah, allowing the suffering is allowing the karma to finish, to complete. So I did something in my past, karmic seed. The conditions ripened for the suffering to come. Well, that karma's gone. It's done. I still have to suffer. But where we're going to have a lot more suffering is by not wanting the suffering. That's kind of our biggest issue is we don't want the suffering. And in any form, right? And it's our resistance to this sort of natural process that creates neurosis and poor coping mechanisms and unhealthy behaviors and so forth. And that's just going back to Carl Jung and, just our normal Western psychology. It's all this neurosis and poor coping mechanisms because I don't want to feel legitimate pain. And so I create a lot of unhealthy ways to avoid it. So the suffering is the resultant karma, and that's fine. It's how we engage with the suffering. And, but we still have to suffer, which is what you said. Yeah. But you'll find you'll suffer a lot less as soon as you accept it. We just suffer less. There's so much more pain by not wanting the pain, physically and mentally, right? You went through that with your elbow. I remember you meditated on that, yeah. Instead of fighting it, yeah. Okay. Well then, this week, I'm going to invite you to do your best to notice the motivations, right? And the shifts in attitude. As pointed out, if I change my attitude about something, will it change my experience? If I think of somebody as a jerk, or do I think of somebody as confused like me? Can I then deal with their behaviors and not their values as a human being? So just working with this model is everything that's happening an opportunity to create your future? Is it an opportunity to purify difficult situations have an opportunity to purify? We'll actually get to the purification process, but one way is to just allow it to purify. I don't need to do anything. I don't need to. Just, okay. It's gone now. Okay, so that'll be this week. Karma is definitely, being aware that what we're creating our future and what's happening is a result of our past and collectively. All right, well, let's go ahead and dedicate the merit and wisdom that we have cultivated here from our time together. And we pop that up for everyone. A lot of things we could have been doing on a Wednesday evening, and here we are cultivating our hearts and minds, seeking to engage in this life in ways that are truly meaningful as best we can, be helpful to others. A lot of merit there. So we can collectively dedicate this merit from our time together for the benefit of all sentient beings. May the little drips of our merit and wisdom find its way into the waters of the world, eventually in the clouds, eventually into the bodies, and nourish all sentient beings. The merit and wisdom of the ages, that they may ultimately find their way and be free of suffering. And for us to nurture, water, and grow this merit and wisdom within ourselves, ultimately achieving a direct realization of our ultimate nature and be of greatest benefit to all. And with that motivation, those who care to, I invite you to join me in the dedication prayer. By this merit, may I soon attain the enlightened state of Guru Buddha, that I may be able to liberate all sentient beings from their sufferings. May the precious Bodhi mind, not yet born, arise and grow. May that born have no decline, but increase forevermore.
Om Tare Tu Tare, Tu Re Soha. Om Tare Tu Tare, Tu Re Soha. Om Tare Tu Tare, Tu